In the last video, we looked at the structure of atoms and how the different particles in the atom made it up. We said that atoms were made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. That protons and neutrons existed in the nucleus, and that electrons were in electron shells around the outside. We looked at the example of sodium, and we said that sodium had 11 protons, 11 electrons, and 12 neutrons. And if we were to draw that, we would put 11 protons in the central, 12 neutrons in the nucleus as well, with 2 electrons in the first shell, 8 electrons in the next shell, and then the last electron in the third shell. From here we can look at the structure of an atom, and we know that atoms are not happy with having partially filled outer shells. They want to have a full outer shell. And they want to have a full outer shell because this is more stable. So sodium has two options. It can either gain 7 electrons to fill out its third shell, or lose 1 electron to remove its third shell and only have 2. It is much easier for it to lose 1, so that is what it's going to do. So we can then redraw sodium as an ion. Where it now has 2 electrons in its first shell, as before, 8 electrons in its second shell, but it has now no last third shell. It only has 10 electrons. So we're going to draw the shorthand of this. Sodium is now 2, 8. Now looking at the charge of this, we know that it now has 11 protons, which are positive, and 12 neutrons, which are neutral, so have no impact on the charge, but it only has 10 electrons. Because it has 11 positives and 10 negatives, its total charge is now plus 1. So we write that as sodium plus. And that is why ions are formed and how we work out the number of charges on them. If we look at an atom at the other end of the periodic table, such as oxygen, oxygen has 8 protons, 8 electrons, and 8 neutrons. So to draw that, we would draw 8 protons, 8 neutrons in the nucleus, 2 electrons in its first shell, and then 6 electrons. Shorthand of that being oxygen is equal to 2, 6. So in order to get a full shell, oxygen has two options. It can either gain 2 electrons or subtract 6 electrons. It is much easier for oxygen to gain 2 electrons, so that is what it does. So if we were to redraw that, oxygen still has 8 protons. It now has 2 more electrons, so it has 10 electrons, and still has 8 neutrons. So 8 protons, 8 neutrons in the nucleus, 2 electrons in the first shell, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 electrons in its last shell, So oxygen is now oxygen 2, 8. To work out the charge, we look at the number of protons and electrons from over here. We now have 8 positives and 10 negatives. So in total, oxygen has an overall charge of -2. So we say it's O2-, and it is now the oxide ion.